Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to uLaw CPD webinar. Topic for today's session is Law Office Matter Management. This session is entitled for 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. And the ones who have just joined in, please turn on your audio. You could use the computer or the phone. I would highly recommend the phone audio. How about now? Is it better? Viewer 33? Thank you for commenting. Awesome. And sometimes it's my headphones. Thank you so much. Perfect. I see more people joining in. Almost settled. Okay, great. As people are joining in, let's quickly go over today's agenda. As every other webinar, we do have a little set agenda for today's webinar. We're going to focus more on matter and invoicing and matter-related financial transaction. That being said, trust retainers, disbursements, which includes both trust in general and also client payments from the financial standpoint. And from the matter management with client servicing standpoint, understanding when do you issue a retainer letter, how do you collect retainer, what are some of the important points that you will need to mention on your retainer letter, receipts, what are the information that needs to get covered on the receipts, how do these get on to your dockets, rate management, understand whether we have a billable time, hourly, or whether you do flat rate, and how do you decide, how do you get about showing them on your respective invoices, ledgers, journals. So today, completely understand the Law Society requirements as well. When you start servicing a client, which is when you open a file or called as a matter intake, to the time you close a file. Understand what goes behind it, what needs to be planned, what needs to be discussed with you and your client, between you and your client, and relatively create forms and documents that's needed to service them. So in and out matter management and the life cycle of the entire matter, starting off with a simple client intake process, understand what goes behind those conflict checks, retainer letters, how do you assess what goes behind, those deposit slips. Now, when you intake a client, a very specific detail that is obtained from your client is, of course, their personal details. You would do a client intake, then you would, whichever is the method that you opt for. And once the client intake is done, you would run a conflict check, make sure there's no conflict, and then you would do the virtual verification if you're virtually completed the intake. And then understand whether you're going to collect a retainer or not, like decide, first thing that you do. Once you decide whether you're going to collect a retainer or not, then you would send them a retainer letter if you're collecting a retainer, making sure the retainer letter or the agreement fulfills all the obligations needed from both the sides, right? Like you and your client. While a retainer letter is made, the retainer is collected, which is where the trust amounts, like the money comes into the trust account and you hand a trust retainer receipt. Then you start proceeding with opening the file or opening a matter or adding dockets, entering amounts that was paid by them, and raising an invoice, such things. You start servicing your client full-fledged, then move on to a point where you would start organizing the file. Like you would have collected some documents like their driver's license, their SIN, and other stuff. You would want to put them in a folder so you have your drives connected. Once your drives are connected, you can clearly bring in all those documents under the respective tabs, folders, and those files are obtained. Once that is done, you would be able to proceed to add all of these under the respective file organization. Like you would have the conflict check documents, you would have the virtual verification reports, you would have driver's license and other stuff that you've collected. Everything goes organized under the client's folder, under the respective document tab, connected to the drive again. So whether you're downloading anything from the software or you're downloading from the email, it goes into one place, which is connected to the client's file. And then whenever you need to take a look at any single document that relates to this client, you would go to one place under the document management, and then you can go from there, right? Especially the documents under the matter. So definitely it helps you to streamline your practice better when all of the documents are in one place. The accessibility, especially in a firm where you have more than one user, let's say you and your assistant, or you and your coworker, or you and your accountant, anybody other than you are also using the program at the same time and would like to review what's happening in the file. They could just access the documents right there. They don't have to go into any of those. They don't have to seek any other permission. Once it's uploaded in uLaw and you have your respective login, you can just share it with anybody and they would be able to see the details. While that happens, you start docketing, you start collecting retainers, provide the retainer receipt, add disbursements. Now understand whether these disbursements, they are something that is basically made from trust or general. Now, once you understand if it's made from trust or general, accordingly, you can add them into the books. You could say if it's made from trust, it's a payout of trust, and only actual amounts are made from trust. And if it's general, you would do it. You could do both actual and also with any profit margin. So clearly, disbursements made with profit margin are made only from the general. Any disbursements that are actual, that can be made from both trust and general. Some people might not have trust, so they will only focus on getting it done from their general. Once the disbursements are added under the respective client's matter, same whether trust or general, then they would be able to raise an invoice and collect the payment into the general account, or if there's money sitting in the trust, they would be able to move the money from trust to the general. There are different types of disbursements. Definitely that is something that we discuss on the disbursements demystified webinar. But just to understand what are the basics, right? Like you have disbursements that are billable of nature. That could be a consultant fee, or that could be any other billables like, like a courier or a translator fee or something of that sort, right? That could be actuals, that could be with profit margin nature. So you can decide relatively whether trust or general to use. And there are some disbursements that are in nature of unit cost that are mostly photocopies. And then there are some with travel time, kilometers, mileage, whichever ones that you're using for your transit to meet the client or wherever needed. Sometimes you have hotel expenses, recovery of expenses with actuals or profit margin. So respectively, you could use them. Once you know that you have your disbursements entered, your legal fee entered. You also simultaneously start creating the file checklist where you have your file numbers, you have your confirmations, you have your conflict checks created, like you have the indexing, like for every file that is created, you have a little index with each and every matter that's created. Like for example, the same client could have, um, two different matters, right? You could be a paralegal where you would have been servicing the client with a traffic ticket and a landlord tenant board issue or a small claims issue. So for the same client, you just open different matters. You don't repeat or you don't re-enter the clients again and again. It's just the same client, so your client details will already be there under the contact. All that you're required to do is just go into the matter that is already open and just click on action and you create a new matter. Again, a new matter whenever they come back to you. Um, so with indexing, it's more easier to get the stuff in. So we also have the compliance documents that are required to be made for Law Society every time we have a new client file created. Starts off definitely with the retainer letter because when you're intaking a client, that's when you start the file process. And the very first thing you would want to make sure that every retainer letter contains is the nature and scope, client responsibilities, your responsibilities, frequency of communication, like in the method that you would like to adopt, like whether you want to do a method like an email or maybe like a phone call or text, whichever is your preferred method of communication, especially consider that with your client. Ask them what is their requirements, what do they feel would be their comfort to, and you discuss with them and make sure that you will draft a retainer letter based on that. Then you also have other retainer arrangements, whether you would like to get the retainer upfront or whether you would like to, you know, collect it in installments. You have any payment arrangements, you could make a note of all of that. And any termination details, like let's say, for example, you have the client termination, like the retainer letter would have all the details, like in case the client's not happy or you're not comfortable servicing the client, you would be able to do that right away. And if you have the termination details in place, and of course, all that is associated with the method of communication. These are like what Law Society agrees to as well. And this is definitely something that will help you to start the file initially, and then if needed, you can always make amendments, but you'll have to ensure that there is enough room to make amendments. You let them know for further amendments. You will have to refer to the retainer letter or so. And one thing that I would always recommend clients to take a look at is any of these retainer letters that are exhaustive of nature, if there are plenty of uh, you know, line items or pages rather. Your client will, yes, there would be a demo. At the last 15 minutes is the demo into the program. I would be walking you through all of these documents, how to generate them and stuff, like 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, thank you. Also understand these risks that are associated with the method of communication. So basically, these letters are, they can be in pages. That's what I was trying to say, but I can limit them depending upon your area of practice, depending upon your nature of practice and such things that will may help you make a decision to keep your retainer letters to the length that you wish to. And yeah, once you have them and you kickstart the file, you have your disbursements in place, you have your legal fee, and all of these compliance documents that is needed right from the time you start your client intake. There's a client intake form, there's a ID verification, conflict checks, retainer letter, and as soon as you collect the retainer letter, giving them a retainer receipt. And, you know, in case that a file doesn't go well and or rather has not taken off well, and you decide to, for some reason, you decide to not proceed further, ensuring that you give them a non-engagement letter, that you don't, or you give them a closing letter without a proper closure, then there's going to be a lot of issues. So non-engagement letter is something that is mostly seen in the case of a ghost clients, where there's someone who comes in, gives you the details, but never shows back. Then non-engagement letter is the right thing to do and say that, hey, sorry, you and I, we spoke, but we never went ahead. That is the kind of letter it is. You just have to generate it. All of this are available if you're in a specific matter, right under document generation. Every matter would have a matter-related document. There's also a compliance tab under every matter that will show you all of the required compliance documents, right, from retainer letter to closing letter. And once you have all of this, you would be able to also generate your invoices, collect the payments, do the trust transfers or client payments respectively, and make sure that the client contacts are updated. And if you're servicing your client for more than a quarter, let's say this file is definitely going on for more than 3 months, Law Society says that every single client is required to receive information on their trust in general. There's a little quarterly update that has to be made on Trust Plus General, Statement of Accounts, Settlement Statement, Bill of Costs, Summary, and these are like 4 or 5 documents that are available again under compliance. Under quarterly compliance, you would see a bunch of them, if I'm not wrong, 4 or 5 of them. And you can just generate them. And once that's done, you could just provide it to them on a quarterly basis. And to end the file, of course, a good closing letter is available right again under the matter, under the compliances. The presentation slides are not available for download. However, if you wish to record any particular screen, I would recommend you to take a screenshot. Thank you. Yeah. So now, how often do you reach your client? Like some of them would be okay to talk to you on a regular interval. Like you would need to obviously let them know ahead of time when you're doing a client intake, service communication. You let them know that the least required is like once a quarter if the file is going on, like some family cases, some of the other files generally goes on for more than a quarter, and you need to let them know the least we would like to converse with you will be once a quarter, but that's the minimum. Like you can do more, obviously. So if you start doing that, the law societies recommend that at least annual basis you send them a statement showing that, hey, this was the trust amount that we received and it's still there lying in the trust. And, we are yet to proceed further. And this particular document will generate all those information automatically. All that you're required to do is just simply, you know, download and send it to them. Make sure that the invoices that you've shared with them have the details of retainers, disbursements, and make sure that the payments with the retainers are added in with the right dates, amounts, and quarterly updates with all the summary. And this should basically have all of the details, including both trust and general. So the statement of account is one of the file. We can also do, or rather, document. We can also do something called a settlement statement. Both of these would give you like a significant information on what was the client's what was done on the client's file so far. Like you have obtained a retainer, there was an invoice, there were multiple invoices, then there were disbursements, some of them were legal fees, all of them raised together. Then you have some outstanding, some were transferred from trust to the general. You had received some money from into the trust. Right? And of course, quarterly update on client fee book aging and other reports, everything again available under the respective client's matter under the quarterly. To have final settlement statements, final closure letters, and ensuring that you send your client a little, you know, greetings every now and then, making sure that you have the least you've done to keep in touch with your client would be to send them a little greeting and say, hey, hope you're doing well. Like it could be a season's greeting or it could be a little envelope with your brand and logo and all of those on it. So making sure that um, the content is not really what you're trying to convey here, but the reason that you're doing this is to ensure that you're still in touch with your client because the file is on, you still have funds sitting in there, and you have to ensure that you're conversing with your client until the file is done. So you don't have much to do, but whether send them a quarterly statement, send them a settlement statement, send them a closure letter, if not anything, send them season greetings. So that's what Law Society expects from you, making sure that there's some kind of activity that's happening in the file, or you close the file and move on. So when you close the file, obviously you have to refund the whatever is there sitting in the trust, or if there's any outstanding from the client, you make sure to collect them. But ensuring that the trust in general becomes zero before you close the file is really important. And these are basically found at the time you reconcile your monthly books, because when you reconcile your monthly books, you get to know something called as trust listing. What is there sitting in your trust for each and every client? What should match with the balance in the trust account, right? So that will also give you a little aging analysis of what was, how long has it been sitting in your trust, and is it some untouched amount, and all of those right there for you to handle and take a decision based on whether you have a need or not. To keep this file open. or, whether close it. So make sure that you go over these reconciliation trust listings every month so it's being updated. And that was about how often you reach out to your client and what you shared with them. Uh, the very next one here is the additional parties on the code form automations that talks about. Yeah, how do you manage the client, which type of client, and um, like whether these clients are added as your plaintiff, defendant, applicant, respondent. Have you grouped them accordingly? So grouping your client as well. So you also make sure to add on all your coworkers. You will have group all your contacts respectively. So once you add in all the information into the contacts, then you're going to be able to classify them under the respective groups, and it'll be easier for you to generate documents for them. Similarly, we have something called as mobile docketing. If you're in a matter, you could also add in the dockets right from there when you call your client and, let's say you have a little telephone conversation with them, and then the mobile app will automatically remind you to docket it, and it will, once you say yes, it will go into the file or the matter as a docket saying it was a a phone or a correspondence or an email conversation, and you could do this on the go instead of sitting in front of your computer. So these are added into the matter analytics. Then the matter management becomes much more smoother because to manage a matter, you typically don't have to sit in front of a computer, or at least you don't have to be in the matter at all. You could use a scratch pad from the calendar. You could just add dockets. I'll walk you through scratch pad, right? Another 5-10 minutes. Once I'm showcasing uLaw, you'd get to see how easily you could add in dockets without even entering into the matter. And that too, if you're servicing multiple clients at the same time, you could just simply add them in there. Talking about matter analytics, it will help you to understand what are your receivables from your client outstandings. Help you to understand now these matter analytics. You could go through widgets, you could go through bar diagram, pie charts. You could make a little table. Now this is available under the matter analytics screen, analytics, where you get to see matter analytics, all your your disbursements, client costs, bill of costs, little summaries, fee books by category, and yeah, so shows your legal fee that was raised, collected versus the client expense, recovery of expense. And this also helps you to visualize, you know, what you've done in the specific quarter. like let's say a quarter or a month, or you could respectively make your financials, understand the health of the firm, and what needs to, like, basically what you need to do to obtain that specific number, like that you have in mind usually. And that's how mobile docketing looks. If you're using a mobile app or someone who'd like to do it on the go, you could go into the client matter right there, and then rather at least go into the contacts. Once you go into the app, you would be able to access the contact, call the client. You'd see the client name and you'll see the number in it. And let's say you're calling the client using a mobile app, and once you're done, right, it would directly go into the family matter or the traffic ticket or whatever is the real estate file or whatever it is, like the file that you've opened. Going there, and then it would literally ask you if you'd like to docket it. And the moment you say yes, it would round off to the nearest 6 minutes and docket it too. And you can also get to a view of your mobile insights, like what are your fee books categories, like how much you've done this particular month, and is there any outstanding? You could send reminders, any outstanding. And you also get to see these pie diagrams. So you don't have to literally be in front of computer to do all of this. So let me walk you through whatever we discussed using our little uLaw. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please use the chat window and I'll take the questions as I go by. So again, in uLaw, everything that starts with a file has to begin with the contacts. So once you're in the contact screen, you could add client using different methods. Now let's say I'm just using the manual method. Click on add new client. And once you have the client information, you do just a little basic. And all the basic details of your client. So once you have the client information done, I could do that, or instead of sitting and typing all this, I could also press and hold into the mic and just hit save. You see all the information up, you can just hit save. So that's one of our newest way to add a new client. Just have to click on add new client and then the mic shows up. And you can just speak into the mic. It will record the information and it would take it to the respective tabs or rather fields and edit it. And now the very first thing as part of the matter management to this topic that I'd like to do is conflict check. And the very next thing that I do is if I've virtually taken the client, I'd click on virtual verification and then I would initiate a driver's license validation. And I would then, once these are done, then I would move and open the file. Okay, so we have the potential conflicts listed out here, and the virtual verification was successful. So I would go ahead and open the file. Once I open the file, I could start adding the dockets. Okay, this is landlord and tenant. So your hourly rates. If you have an assistant, if you have a code file number, any matter description, and save it. So once you have the file open, the very first thing that I would always recommend my people to do is click on Compliance tab. Ensure the very first few things that you need to do is done. So since I've already verified my client intake done, conflict screening done, the very first thing that I would do once I open a matter is that I know that I'm going to do a retainer or not already. So if I'm doing a retainer, first thing that do is download. You could do the PDF, you could use our version, or you could download a Word version. You can update and send it to them online. Now, let's say I'm doing it using our PDF version, and then you can just take a look at it. So we have our points that we discussed: fee, retainer, your responsibilities, nature and fees that have to be shown. Then what is the amount of retainer that you'd like to collect, and the communication method, everything mentioned there. So you go in there, once the client pays the retainer, you enter them in whichever was the method of payment, ensure all the fields are completed, and it is easier for you because it's going to take just less than a minute. And then when you click on this little box, it's just receipt, you should be able to download them. Once you download, just go in, ensure that the receipts are provided, and then meantime you start servicing your client. Let's say you're doing a flat fee, or if you're doing a billable time, you can just enter the billable time too. Enter the description, you can record. Sometimes you copy and paste some docket that's too lengthy. Ensure to use our AI tools. You could use notes to summary. It will ensure to summarize the entire thing. And then you can apply, save it. We have the invoice. Before you do the invoice, let's do a little disbursement. I'm going to do a billable, so I do a courier, and it's $40 plus taxes that you're charging. However, you have a little markup, say you use 33, Canada Post, and let's say you have used your business credit card. Be sure of that. If you have the reference number, great, enter it. So let's raise an invoice to see how these ledgers and journals and the documents that are going to be created for your client. Okay. Right, summary details. I would say mark as paid. I would say eco-friendly version. I like to do the default thing, click invoice. So these invoices are definitely going to be helpful because one, you can do your trust transfer once the invoice is made. And you could also definitely file these invoices in your drive, your Google Drive. So whenever you need to access them, you could clearly do it. Like, let's say I'm connecting my drive to my Google Drive. And once I say continue, it's connected. I'm going to authorize, going to ensure that it's connected, definitely. Sure that I open the drive right there. And I find my uLawPractice folder. I'd say for the matter. And the matter that I just created now is Nancy Jonathan. So it will be NJ, or I could just use date modified. So the one on the top would be just the one that I created now. I can just drag drop or upload the files I wish to. And you'd see that I have a retainer letter, I have a retainer receipt, I have an invoice, and I have the conflict screening. I'm going to upload all of these into my Google Drive. Takes me less than a minute. From your refresh and you see all the 4 files in there. So whenever you're at home, you want to review something for this client, you don't have to literally open your other system. You could just log into uLaw and go into that specific client's matter, or you're in the matter itself and you're here, you want to take a look at the retainer letter. You see that the retainer letter doesn't match what you've requested. Just go into the documents, click on the retainer letter. It opens up in a new tab. Just click on it. Better document management, matter management saves you time, the hassle, and most appropriate because you are not, looking for the information outside, getting confused, but everything is right there under the matter itself, right? Additional parties, if you're someone who has additional parties, let's say your client is also the applicant, right? You could just do this instead of attention, you just say applicant, and you just say Nancy, Jonathan, save it, helps you. So helps you to add in all the details. And then when you do the code forms, let's say if this is something to do with non-payment or years, you just say, or you're doing any other application, you could take a look. And eviction, okay, you take a look, whichever ones that's needed, you could just download them and also keep this in your drive for easy access. I would highly recommend that. And it also gives you the documents with pre-populated information wherever necessary. It would print out the information, ensure that you are adding in all the information. I didn't add the landlord-tenant case, but in your case, you'll have to, if you're doing this, you'll have to add in all the details and it'll pull out the information from the respective tabs. And the compliance tab here under the matter, like how we had compliance tab under context, we have the one under the matter where you download the retainer letter. This is exactly where you have your, the statement of activity for socials. Mm, um, Download a settlement statement. These will give you information on what is the retainer, what was collected. Yes, we do have platforms. Sorry, I'm not really familiar with OCF. Can you elaborate on that? In the meantime, this is what a settlement statement is required, looks like, and it's required to be provided if you're servicing the client for more than 3 months, which is a quarter. So the least that you would need to do is to provide them a quarterly statement. I think they have the question mark, transfer the funds. Only when you looked at the settlement statement, you realized that the trust transfer should have been made. You quickly make it at the bank, come back to the question mark here, transfer, and fund transfer, transfer, that's how it looks. Load the Form 9 immediately. So all of this will help you to save time because you're not going out of your app or the software to do it. Of course, you're going to transfer this in your real bank. You have a tab open. Once you do it in the real bank, you can come back in here. And that's Form 90, which again will provide you with the matter information. Over here, under accounts, you will also get to see all your matter transactions, so you don't have to repeat them. These are done once in the matter, and then you can come back and take a look here. Go back in here to the matters. When you're in the compliance, we have a little settlement plus accounts. This will show you transactions as well as the accounts, what really happened in there. And lastly, you can also provide a closing letter, provide outline all the details and provide this to your client. So you could proceed with closing the file. Amid that, if you need to ensure that everything is fine here, you take a look at your accounts quickly and complete it. Complete your monthly reconciliations. You could add in your transactions. Either the disbursements can be manually added as I showed there, or you could open through import bank statement, Bank Connect. That will allow you as well to add all your transactions. And once both your general and trust are done, then you could complete your monthly compliances here. These are part of the accounting, so I'm not elaborating much on it, but just wanted to come here to showcase everything. So since we're here, it's exactly where you do your monthly compliances after you download your trust and general reconciliation. Ensure the four journals, two ledgers, other fee book, and common reports are downloaded too. Go back into the matter. You would also be able to see one last thing. Right under the document generation, you have the timeline reports. If you're a legal aid, uh, if you submit a legal aid, you can download the legal aid statements right here. And you could also claim the hours, especially with all the start and end times right here. So right now I'm not showing the start and end time, but in your case, if you are, then it would be no billable hours, so it's not showing up. But if they were, then it would come on under the respective start and end time. One last thing again. I know I've been saying one last thing the last couple of minutes, but I know I showed this to you on the bill mathematics. We saw it on the slides, but I'd also like to show you the revenue and fee book, how it looks here, especially with the expense chart, so you can compare it and see how the unbilled hours and everything looks. Let's say I'd like to do for the quarter. So we could just do quarter, and see how the variance looks like, and also do a chart or diagram, like a little tab. And there's no unbilled hours, then it shows automatically zero. If there are any other expense charts by clients, then you get to see all the disbursements. So you also get to see today's disbursement that was raised for the courier charges that was made. Okay. So you can also go by the details. You can go through the little revenue insights. Okay. And when you go back into the calendar, you could also do a little test here with your scratchpad, which I mentioned for a better matter management. I'd like to end today's topic showcasing this to all of you. This is a lovely feature where you can add, let's say you're working on 4 different files, you could add in 4 or 5 rows, and then say if you're currently working with someone, you're on a client meeting, and then you simultaneously, you or your assistant is also working on some drafting. And then let's say you intend to take a hearing in the next 1 hour, and then you have all of this added, and then, right, you want to add in a description. Say it was a phone conversation, was to the 6 minutes. Let's say you round off and then you're done, docket it, and then you say take action, add new event. I would even go into the matter, put it into the matter, then say add new event. Let's say this one was a billable time of 1 hour, was drafting, want to put it under the same matter, go for it. So this is how it works. And then once you're done, you can just clear all daily dockets. And then you can close this. And if you go back into the client's file, there was Charles. Let me take a look at it. Yeah, below Charles. Click on matter, and then you would actually see the 2 dockets that I just added with the client meeting and application drafting with today's date. It's right there. So it's easier for you if you are working, of course, on multiple files. You don't have to go into the file, but you can just do it right from there. All right. Any questions, guys? I don't see any questions on the chat window. I'm hoping that I got a little detail about this conveyed. So if you have any questions, the chat window is open. Today's webinar on matter management is entitled for 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. I will be sharing the attendance link as well as the matter information on the chat window. I would request to take every single information. Please make a note. Any questions, I would request you to also please let me know on the chat window whether it's regarding today's topic or you have any other question in general about uLaw. Please feel free to use the chat window. Topic is law office matter management. It is entitled for 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. And I am entering it on the chat window for all of you to make a note now. Please do provide your attendance so in case in future if you're at any doubt or in need, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to share information. There are a few more useful links that I regularly post, which would be our Instagram, follow our Instagram link, YouTube channel for more new videos, updates on our social media platform, LinkedIn, that includes FB. So I am requesting if you're a regular attendee, and if you're also a client or not, doesn't matter, but do follow us so you would get more regular updates on the respective platforms. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's webinar. And I'll be here for another 5 minutes if you would like to have ask any questions on today's or this week's or upcoming webinar. Please do let me know. The upcoming webinar topics, they are available on our webinar channel. So you would like the website too. So you could take a look over there, and I'll have the chat window details with the link on the chat window as well. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. you all next weekend. Like next Friday, we have this topic as well, and I'll make a note. I'll share the link with all of you over here. Please make a note and join us. Thank you.